Hey everybody, this is Mike with Free Roaming Hiker, and today I'm talking to you about the gorgeous and peaceful Phelps Lake. There are numerous trail options to reach Phelps Lake. Some of them are easy, some of them a little harder. So I'm going to discuss all the trail options you can hike starting from the Lawrence S. Rockefeller Preserve, or LSR for short. I'm also going to mention what's unofficially known as bear season around the LSR and how it could impact your hike. I'll start with the easiest hikes first and then progress into lengthier and harder trails if you're looking at a bit more miles to the hike. So beginning from the parking area, you have to make a short and easy walk to the visitor center, and that's where the trail actually begins. Initially, it all begins as one trail, but will fork off in places along the way, and that allows you to extend your loop or even make another loop if you'd like. The initial trail that leaves the visitor center is called the Woodland Trail. This begins appropriately enough in the woods and heads up along Lake Creek, which you'll hear rushing by. There's a couple of quick spurs along the trail right in there in the beginning, one that looks downstream of Lake Creek and another that leads to just a small, beautiful waterfall. A short distance up the trail is the first fork, which branches off to create the Lake Creek Trail. The Lake Creek Trail crosses the creek over a large wooden bridge, and it heads up to Phelps Lake along the trail for most of its duration. You'll get some great overlooks of the creek, as well as some scenic spots along the creek to take a short rest if you'd like. For most people visiting, hiking up the Lake Creek Trail and then connecting to the Woodland Trail back is the ideal hike to and from Phelps Lake. This is a roughly 3-mile hike, making a nice little loop, and though there are a few short ascents, I'd still consider the trail to be very easy. To do this, at the end of the Lake Creek Trail, there's a wildly picturesque overlook of the lake with the cliffs of Death Canyon crowning the opposite shore. There's a bench, and it's just a really pretty place to stop and rest, so you'll definitely want to do that and take in the scene. So from there, you'll head right along the Phelps Lake Loop, assuming you're facing the lake, and that will connect with the Woodland Trail just a few tenths of a mile past that. Every fork is signed, so you don't have to worry about possibly taking the wrong trail. And once back on the Woodland Trail, it's just an easy straight shot back to the visitor center and parking area. So that would be the simplest loop to and from Phelps Lake. The next most popular option is to do that same loop, but also include the entire Phelps Lake Loop Trail as well. This loop wraps around the entire lake and gives you all kinds of other scenic views. You've got countless vantage points that offer up a unique change in the scenery both around you as well as the Grovant Mountains, which rise across the valley opposite the Tetons. Aside from one small moderate climb, I'd still call this an easy hike, though the loop will add about 4 miles to the previous trip, which would make this just shy of about 7 miles total. If you were looking for a hike that goes roughly 5 to 10 miles, this is a great way to extend that previous hike and fulfill that goal. If you were looking to add even more miles and some elevation gain to your hike, you'll want to do the Phelps Lake Loop, but instead of accessing it via solely the Lake Creek Trail and the Woodland Trail, you'll want to fork off about a third of the way up the Lake Creek Trail, where you'll encounter another fork for the Aspen Ridge Trail. This trail wanders down and then back up a glacial moraine of the lake. This gives you over 400 feet of elevation gain before dropping back down to the Phelps Lake Loop a few dozen yards away from the end of the Lake Creek Trail. Once you head around the Phelps Lake Loop, you'll encounter a fork for the Boulder Ridge Trail shortly before reaching the Woodland Trail. Taking this route back gives you the opportunity to hike past immense glacial boulders that are scattered throughout the forest. It's similar to the Woodland Trail, but just a little bit longer and with a little bit more elevation change. In total, this hike would be roughly 10 miles round trip, and it even offers enough diversity and challenge to entertain avid hikers. If you did want to see those ridges and you didn't have time, or maybe you didn't want to do the entire loop as well, you could just do the Aspen Ridge and the Boulder Ridge Trail, and that's just shy of about 6 miles. So those are the 3 or 4 main, most popular trails originating from the LSR. You can also mix it up and do other combinations of trails in the area, and this gives you plenty of hiking potential. Now, in terms of what's unofficially become known as bear season, you can expect a small change along the early trail route. So bear season begins roughly late August, and it typically starts when hawthorn berries, among others, that line much of the start of the Woodland Trail begin to ripen. In order to avoid conflicts, the park in recent years has begun to reroute the trail through the sagebrush and around the visitor center to avoid those hawthorn berry bushes. This avoids the densest concentration of those bushes along the trail, And it also allows the bears to just eat peacefully in a critical season without too much disturbance. The reroute comes out of the Woodland Trail just a short distance farther, and you're still able to backtrack and access the Lake Creek Trail if you'd like. Just please respect the closure and let the bears peacefully put on some weight before they go in for hibernation. Believe me, they need the pounds more than you need to see them. So that's the Lawrence S. Rockefeller Preserve and its trails in a nutshell. If you have any questions or you want to leave a comment, please do so in the comments below. I've got a couple of links in the description to my blog posts at freeroaminghiker.com. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe to discover more hikes. And thanks for watching, and happy trails.